hurry not, we got to be ready, 'cause time's getting short. Good evening, good evening. This is your servant and Senator, Carla Joseph, welcoming you to another segment of my radio talk show, On Point, heard every other Tuesday here on WSTA Radio 1340 on the AM dial from 6:36 to 6:30 p.m. The People Station, WSTA Radio. Well, I will let you all know that we have been working very hard at the legislature for you. But before I go into that, I want to begin this evening's program on a solemn note and to express condolences to the family of the late governor, the Honorable Roy Lester Schneider, and as well as his wife, Barbara, Ms. Barbara Schneider, on his passing on Sunday, December 18. I also, on behalf of my family and staff, offer condolences to our delegate to Congress, the Honorable Stacy Plaskett, and her family on the passing of her father, Leroy Alfonso Plaskett, who passed away on December 23rd. And finally, within my home circle, my family and my home circle, we are mourning the passing of my great uncle, Robert Joseph, also known as Sylvester Red Shirt or Bully, on his passing on December 19th. Uncle Bully, I just want to expound, he worked for many years at the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority. Definitely he will be missed. He is my grandmother's brother, and so we definitely would love to be able to give tributes to him, really for all that he's done, being a head of a household. And earlier this year, his wife passed away as well. So we pray that our God will continue to strengthen and give comfort to all of us, as well as peace to all of us who are mourning the loss of a loved one at this time. It is not easy to say goodbye to a loved one, especially when they are so dear to you. But our God is always faithful and always loving and always caring. So we should continue to rest and hold tight to his unchanging hand. For those of us who are believers, Christians, and believe in Jesus Christ, on Sunday, December 25th, we celebrated Christmas, and this is celebrated around the globe. This is one celebration that touches every continent, I could actually say, on this earth. Christmas. So a lot of people were celebrating Christmas on Sunday, and of course Boxing Day yesterday. And also yesterday began a very, very historic celebration for Pan-Africanism specifically, and that's Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is an annual holiday celebrated primarily in the United States from December 26th to January 1st. So just giving you a little bit of education about Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa emphasized the importance of Pan-African family and corresponding social values. Kwanzaa peaked in popularity during the Afrocentrics movement in the 1980s and 1990s. Each of the days of the celebration is dedicated to one of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And you'll ask, what are those 7 principles of Kwanzaa? 1, unity, umoja. That's very important, because without unity, we are not going to see any progress. We can't be individualized. Even here, I'm putting on this show, it takes a group of people working together, unified, to be able to put this broadcast over. So unity is very critical. The next principle is self-determination. Well, we were all determined to be here. We all woke up this morning and had things that we needed to accomplish, and that's part of our self-determination. And that is, I don't want to mispronounce this word, Kuyuchugulia. I may be mispronouncing it, but it's spelled Kujachigulia. And then we have collective responsibility, Ujima. So that's another principle of Kwanzaa, collective. Everything is focused really on family and togetherness and unification. And we have cooperative economies, knowing that each one of us are dependent on the other to for our economic well-being. We all are depending on each other for a lot of things. So really, there's a saying that no man is an island, which is true. So we all have that cooperative economics where we're working with each other to either sell things, purchase things, provide services. So that cooperative economics. And that's Ujame. And then we have purpose, which is Nia. You have to have a purpose mentioned in self-determination. You wake up every morning having you're determined to do something. You have a purpose. You should have your purpose in life. And if you don't, that takes some introspect. So that may be one of the things you want to focus on as one of your New Year's resolution, to really define your purpose in life, which is Nia. Creativity, Kumba, it is creativity, and we tend to be, creative people. We started a lot of new fads, especially people who are African descent. One of them, of course, which I love, is reggae. We started that. That's part of my theme song. Music is always something that we use to be creative in the Virgin Islands, and throughout the Caribbean region and throughout the world. And last but definitely not least, and I just spoke about it when I mentioned about those of us who are believers and having that level of faith. Faith is the last one. Imani. Faith. Faith is essential for most people and all people to be able to move things. You just don't walk just by walking or talking. You have to have faith. And when you have faith, I remember in 2020, when the whole pandemic was really at its height, and there were people like, oh, we seen before the pandemic came out, they were like, we seen 2020 vision. Some of us who are believers were saying, this is a time for faith, because we walk by faith and not by sight. Every day we get up, we give thanks, knowing that the one who created us all has a mission for each one of us, and Kwanzaa brings that out. There are 7 symbols of the holiday for Kwanzaa too. The fruits, vegetables, and nuts, a straw mat, a candle holder, ears of corn, gifts, a communal cup signifying unity, and 7 candles in the African colors of red, green, and black, symbolizing the 7 principles. On each day, the family comes together to light one of the candles in the Kinera, a candle holder, and to discuss the principle of the day. On December 31st, families join in a community feast called Karamu. Some participants wear traditional African clothing during the celebration. So that's Kwanzaa. And you know, I really, when I growing up, my parents did not celebrate Kwanzaa. We learned about it in school and of course in other community organizations that I was a member of. But it has such strong principles that should carry us through life and to help build us, especially when we're heading into a new year. I also want to I'm really excited about this now. This other news is that we want to welcome the President of the United States, Joseph Biden, and his wife, First Lady Jill Biden, to St. Croix, Virgin Islands. They are here again. We know in the Virgin Islands that President Biden and his family have vacationed here in the Virgin Islands, specifically in St. Croix, for a number of years while he was vice president to former President Barack Obama. So we really want to share and have a really great welcome and share our hospitality and welcome them to their second home, I would be liberal in saying, St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, since they tend to visit here a number of years all the time. And in fact, the local media sources have indicated that the President and First Lady arrived today, December 27th, in St. Croix, are reported to be arriving today in St. Croix. And I just want to also alert and share with the listening audience some of the items I started out the show talking about some of the items that we were covering at last Tuesday's legislative session. And I just wanted to run it by many of you because we have some very maybe controversial legislation that's coming up this coming Thursday, December 29th. But we did cover some nominees. We had Dr. Janice Baumann, and she is going to be a member of the Virgin Islands Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. We also had Dr. Rick Wareheim, Virgin Islands Board of Pharmacy. We considered all of these individuals and voted on them in the Committee on Rules, and they of course went on to the full legislative session, and all of them were approved. And I'll just run down the list of those who were approved. I mentioned Dr. Janice Baumann, also Dr. Rick Wareheim for the Virgin Islands Board of Pharmacy. Then we had Ms. Stephanie Hodge for the Virgin Islands Real Estate Commission, Christopher McDonald for the Virgin Islands Real Estate Commission as well. We had Ms. Leona Smith, Virgin Islands Port Authority, Board of Governors. That was a renomination. Then we had two other cabinet members who were nominated. Ms. Delia Thomas, the Inspector General from the Office of the Inspector General. She was nominated and she was voted favorably upon by the full body. And Dr. Dion Wells Hendrickton, Commissioner for the Virgin Islands Department of Education. And of course, she was considered by the full body last week, Tuesday, and was voted upon favorably. As a member of the Committee on Rules and Judiciary, we vet all of these nominees, and I was part of that vetting process. And I really have to mention that these are really some good, hard-working nominees. Specifically, I want to highlight Ms. Delia Thomas, the Inspector General. I remember when Ms. Thomas was just starting off in the Office of the Virgin Islands Inspector General, and it is really great when you see people have now been noticed and recognized for their hard work, their endurance, their preservation, their level of professionalism. And she worked closely. This is succession planning with Inspector General, former Inspector General Stephen Van Beverhout. That's what we want to be able to do. That's what we need to be able to do. We need to look within our workforce and really place those persons and challenge them, and train them and educate them so that they could take the reins and government can continue, because they come with a lot of institutional knowledge. So Ms. Dahlia Thomas, I really wish her the best. I'm here definitely to support her and to support all of the team at the Office of the Virgin Islands Inspector General. Specifically, what I liked about her testimony and what she plans to do is to bring in a forensic accountant. That is critical. That's a critical position, and I'm going to tell you why. Because that it helps with the investigation to see about embezzlement, if there anything that is wrong, that fraud, all of those things that is critical for us to start or to continue rather to build the trust of our people in government. So I really appreciate that. That's one of the key positions that she would like to bring in for the Virgin Islands Inspector General office. And she said something when I questioned her that was very important to me, is that you don't want people, when you are doing conducting an inspection and you give a report, to have that level or audit, to have that level of anxiety, or people to feel like, okay, they're doing everything wrong. Audits aren't intended for that purpose. They're really intended to show you areas that you need to fill, especially when it comes to fiscal controls. You have to have that fiscal control, and the person who typically does the fiscal controls are the financial people, your supervisors, the certifying officers. And what helps you to actually implement the fiscal control is when you have standard operating procedures, those SOPs. Because you will have those SOPs, once you put those SOPs in place, you are removing some of the level of familiarity, partiality, and relationships, because now you're letting this person know, because they should have this standard operating procedure. This is the standard we operate by. Bam, done the business. And if you go outside of this standard, then we can't process, or we can't move forward with okaying anything you bring. You have to live by this standard. And that's what I like. I love standard operating procedures. So that's what audits do. They let you see those things. They let you work towards improving the operation of your entity and how you look at things. And it also entails training. They would tell you, you're going to need some training to get it there, but it is to really improve the efficiency and productivity, and to assure that the trust and the integrity of government is increased. And so that's why I really like auditors. I love when persons, like I mentioned, when I worked for the Housing Authority, we were audited. We would get site visits by the funders, and I used to have to prepare, because I have to have all of my documents, my files have to be in order, and I used to spend nights into morning preparing, making sure I'm checking off, working with my group to make sure everything was in place. But I did that, and it wasn't too much time I had to prepare, but I had to spend nice doing that because you're still managing a program, or you're still managing, you're still doing your regular work. Now you have to also prepare for this audit. And so it's like work on top of work. So you have to really put in time for that, because you still have reports you have to send off to your supervisors. You still have to meet with people and get certain projects and items accomplished. You still have to do performance, your regular operating, plus this audit. So you did have to put in that extra time, but that extra time helps you to know if you have everything prepared. And I worked with a team. Remember, we talked about unity with Kwanzaa. We work with a team to get things done, and together we were able to get things done and work with each other to make things happen. And the outcome was we got no findings. And if there were challenges and issues that our team came up with, the auditing team, the site visit, the funders, we were able to address that in short order. And so that's how you work. That's the work. And really, I want to wish Ms. Delia Thomas the best. And also, we had Dr. Dion Wells-Hendrickson. Dr. Wells-Hendrickson is, again, a person who worked her way up from being a teacher to principal to being on the administrative level. And you have to really commend her. I believe she was a chief operating officer for the Department of Education. And so you really have to commend the governor for giving these individuals an opportunity. Now, education needs a lot of work. It's going to need a strong hand and a strong team to work and really dig in. And I'm confident that they will be able to do that. We are here to support them. Because we understand. And I'm not just saying we as a legislature, we as a community, we are here to support them because we have to understand, and we should understand, and I know we do, that education is critical. None of us would be in a position to do any type of work if we didn't have a level of education and understanding. So that is very important, and that really is a critical position. And she spoke well. She really represented herself and the agency well, and you saw that a lot of her colleagues were very much in support of her nomination. So I wish her the best, and again, I am here to support her in achieving the highest level of educational opportunities for our young people, and to really look at reducing the learning loss, and to improving their numeracy, that's their math, as well as their literacy, reading and comprehension scores, because that's necessary. And if that doesn't, it's really a domino effect if those things are not dealt with. So I know they're going to have to do a lot of concentrated learning to be able to really increase and bring our young people up to speed, which I know they can, to the levels that they need to be and where we should be. We've had a number of setbacks with the hurricanes and the pandemic, but I am still hopeful, and I remain optimistic that together we will be able to achieve great things. And if there is a misstep or issues or challenges, it's the same united front we have to come out over with. The major issue is that we have to start to divorce ourselves of the egos and the individualism, and look at ourselves of what we are. We are a community, we are a territory, we are people. And so it is very important that we do look at things from that realm and not divorce ourselves from the community. but try to bring solutions. But also, it's not just the talk, but you have to also do some work. You have to do some work. I also wanted to mention, because I've been talking about mentorship, and I mentioned with Delia Thomas, she had a mentor, and who was her predecessor, Mr. Stephen Van Beverhout. I had a fabulous occasion to attend the Estate Bovoni Weed and Seed Inc. Mentor Mentee Meet and Greet award recognition ceremony. It was held last week, Monday, December 19th, and I really want to say real congratulations to Ms. Jacqueline Freeman, Sergeant Melinda Gibson, and a special congratulations to Audie Henneman and Adelia Henneman, Mr. and Mrs. Audie Henneman, because they have a basketball league, and many of the young people who are from Bovoni as well as Thomasville, Nada, are part of that basketball league, and you should see them. It was standing room only. And then we had the mentorship part, and so I have two mentees, and one of their name is Keandre Charles, and then I have Shakim Jean Charles. So two mentees. It was fabulous, and I really want to thank Resident Action Committee Inc., also who is spearheading this mentorship, along with Weed and Seed Estate Bovoni Weed and Seed Inc., who are working in conjunction. That's how education works. It just isn't relied upon by actually education happening in the school system, in a structured setting in that building. No, education should be something that is ongoing, and it also happens at home, and it happens in our community by us as members of a community, assuring that we are not just giving donations or like, but we're getting involved, we're participating, we're encouraging, we are also disciplining young people so that they can achieve greater than we have. So that's one of the other items that I attended last week. So really good kudos to them. We also had a couple coaches, Coach Rowan and Coach Payne, and also Coach, I don't remember her government name, but she's also known as pharmacist. So she was there. I mean, it was just a wonderful occasion. Now, as jumping back to the legislative session, I just wanted to make sure I get that in because I only have 30 minutes in this show. I just wanted to assure our people that we're going to have a very long session, I suspect, again, this Thursday, December 29th. We finished one items on committee of the whole, and that was regarding the legalization of cannabis. And we also are going to have a committee on the whole regarding the 6th Constitutional Convention of the Virgin Islands and providing for an appropriation to cover the convention-related expenses, as well as a resolution mandating that the President of the 34th Legislature of the Virgin Islands institute a civil action against government employees retirement system of the Virgin Islands for its failure to implement the provisions of Title III Virgin Islands Code, Section 717B, 17. These have to be that has to be with some of the loans that the GRS normally provides its government employees and retirees. We've been already getting letters from retirees asking us not to take GRS to court, and I suspect it's because of the economics of it all. Once we take GRS to court, GRS has to expend money. We have to expend resources. That's the thing with taking people to court. Monies are going to be expended. And so GRS had committed to resuming those programs in, I think it's 2024, either 2024 or 2025. They mentioned that they were going to resume once they really are seeing that they are no longer on the brink of insolvency, which they shouldn't be because of the special vehicle legislation that was implemented and enacted earlier this year. So those are some of the things. So the cannabis bill, I suspect, is going to be one of the major controversial piece of legislation that we're going to be tackling on the 29th. Very major piece of legislation. And so we have to look at it carefully. And you will recall, listening audience, that there was a referendum, a non-binding referendum. I believe this would have been, what, 2014, maybe 2014, either 2014 or 2016. I don't recall the exact time frame. But there was a non-binding referendum regarding the legalization of marijuana. And I recall that it was one that the people, the voters, were in favor of. And remember, for me, my personal take on it is, my perspective is that, people are already using it. They're using it left and front, and we really need to tax it and to regulate it so that persons are getting a good quality of cannabis rather than getting those that might be laced with other toxins and pesticides and the like, which happens. And the young people used to tell me when they see people walking, they say he got sprung. Spraggy. So that's one of the reasons that you really want to look at it. And then too, that it is a major industry, and it could be, if it's well managed, a good revenue source to diversify our economy. So we are almost to the end of our segment. I really want to thank you for listening in to our radio broadcast once again this evening to On Point. Remember, On Point can be heard here on the People's Station, WSTA, 1340 AM from 6 to 6:30 p.m. every other Tuesday. Thank you for listening to On Point. I'd like to thank my staff and my committee members for their encouragement, and all of you in the Virgin Islands for your encouragement. Our next upcoming show is January 10th, 2023. Have a blessed evening, and together, Virgin Islands, let's stay on point. Thank you.